Welcome to Absolutely Marvel in DC. My name is Benny. That is Sal. And today we're going to have a thought-provoking discussion. So we just got done watching the Venom trailer, which announced that it will be exclusively in theaters, which made me remember something, Sal. Do you remember for the last year and a half, every studio fought to get things onto streaming services first and basically said, theaters be damned?
Yeah. Hell, I remember, people thought, I think AMC filed for bankruptcy.
Yep.
I remember there being a lot of discussion and debate as to whether the modern theater-going experience was over.
Yep.
The conversation has been a teeter-totter socially.
But now that everything seems to be going back to exclusively in theaters, because it's Fast and the Furious 9, I think was the first big one that was in theaters. Now it's already on streaming services. It was recommended to me the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to go buy Fast, rent it now, $19.99. Get yourself Fast and the Furious 9. And I'm like, okay. I think Natalie didn't catch up in time. I'll watch it here.
Right.
But that led me to, now that everything is going exclusively back to theaters, how do you feel about this? Now, just to recap for anyone just joining us, Sal and I both like the theater experience, but we also like having the option.
Yes.
So now that it's only back at the theater, what do you think, Sal?
I don't know if we're quite there yet. I feel like it is like everything. If you've ever been wondering about why any company or public figure does anything that seems weird or suspicious, ask yourself if they stand to gain or lose a significant amount of money for that weird or suspicious decision, and you're invariably going to arrive at the right answer. And I feel like it's not that America / the world is going back to normal. It's not that the theater experience is demonstrably better than the home experience or better than streaming. It's just money. And I think the Scarlett Johansson situation and other actors following suit. I know John Krasinski and Emily Blunt are also suing their respective studios because
Quiet Place went immediately to streaming services.
Exactly. We're seeing a lot of things. I saw Gerard Butler is suing over Olympus Has Fallen from 2013.
Which I find to be hilarious. I find the argument hilarious because it's literally millionaires arguing about getting more millions.
Yes.
Which is hilarious. It's just astronomically stupid when you think about it.
Right.
But I will say on the flip side, they signed contracts. This is what they were getting into. So
yeah, you saw Scarlett Johansson's name on the Black Widow movie as a producer. She produced that movie not because she wanted to see what it was like to produce movie. No, she did that because a producer credit gets a certain amount of money in addition to and on top of that. And of course, there was a back end deal about how much you'd get from theater sales. I know Alec Guinness famously waived one of his normal customary fees for being, friggin' Sir Alec Guinness for Star Wars in exchange for a percentage of the gross from the theater experience for Star Wars, and he walked away richer than anyone from the Star Wars cast because of that decision. This is an old trick that actors and studios do, where there is a juicy plum at the theater sale ticket area. And so I think that this exclusive in theater situation is mainly there to appease producers, investors, actors, and people who stand to lose from that. Because what was it? Disney, I think, made $20 million, would have made $20 million from theaters, but made 60 instead because they own all of Disney Plus. Obviously, it makes more sense for Disney to abandon the movie theater.
No, it obviously does. So I'm a fan of the classic movie theater experience. I've said that.
Me too.
I love the, take my wife out, we get the popcorn, I loved when they started doing dinner there because then it became get dinner, get a beer, go to my movie.
It was an event.
Yeah, because look, I could take my wife out to do a whole bunch of stuff, but that was always a unique, fun thing to do.
Yes.
And I do miss that.
Me too.
But there is a part of me now that weighs streaming versus going to the theater. And even though it may come first to the theater, weighs just waiting the month. Is it worth it for me to bother going? Now, that's pandemic aside, okay? I'm throwing that out the window. That has nothing to do with my decision on this. Because Natalie and I sometimes waited because we noticed the trend of things hitting, Google Play so I can rent it early or hitting a streaming service a couple years ago.
Well, I loved going to the theater.
Yeah. No, I did too.
One of those things that
But sometimes
I elected to do. And I'm only not going to theaters because of the pandemic.
Right, we're going to discuss that in a minute. Yeah, we're going to discuss that in a minute. But what I'm saying is, I agreed with you, but sometimes when like the summer blockbusters would hit, and there's 4 out this week and 3 out next week, you got to pick and choose which ones you're just going to watch at the house. You know?
True, that's fair. Well, especially now that you have the option. Yeah. Because before it was like, well, I guess we could see this one on Saturday and this one on Sunday and maybe this one during the week if we have a day off. You know, like and I kind of liked that. I love going to the theater and I love that experience of getting the best seat and, you know, the joy and elation you feel when you see a movie that no one's going to see or you pick the right time.
Yeah.
And that
I like seeing Endgame at like noon on that Friday. Everyone's like, I saw the midnight. I'm like, you ain't spoiled nothing for me. And I woke up, casually walked my way there.
Yep. Just sauntered in.
Yeah. Had lunch and watched Endgame. I don't think I missed much by waking up and seeing it instead of staying up.
No, I loved seeing Endgame in the theater. I think I saw that at night, but I know I saw that in a crowded theater with screaming and clapping and everything. And that was actually kind of a really cool experience. I'm glad I was there for that one.
Well, and I think it goes back to the argument we had almost a year and a half ago where it's like you got to weigh, is this an experience I want in the theater or is this just a movie I want to see?
Right. Black Widow was one of those movies.
Black Widow I saw at the house. I didn't care.
Me too, exactly. I didn't see it in theaters. I didn't need to, and I'm glad I didn't.
No, I am too. But Endgame was an experience. I wanted to see Fast 9 in the theater, but my wife decided we had to catch up on all the movies, and that takes a lot longer than she thought.
There are 8 of them. That's fair.
But now that leads into the next question of because we all kind of assumed things are going to go back to the way they were eventually. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like they're just getting to this point a little too early? Maybe we should have held out on the movies just 6 more months.
Well, there's just no.
I just saw a report that Florida's going back into lockdown.
Right.
Now, to specify, Sal's located in New Jersey and I'm in Colorado, and you probably deal with it more than I do. Over here, we haven't had an outbreak in almost a year. No one cares. And I've gone out and done lots of stuff around here because we haven't had an outbreak. Generally, the area is vaccinated. No one cares out here. They just kind of live their lives now.
We're back to normal, but there's a vast majority of my state that is vaccinated. But also, a lot of our businesses are still invoking the mask mandate themselves, even if the state isn't. And we're seeing a lot of people observing it and just being safe and taking precautions. And I think that's just I say better safe than sorry. And when it comes to the theater experience, I can forego the theater experience for now, in exchange for peace of mind. And I think a lot of people are going to do that. And I think that we're not in a place right now where Hollywood is making... First of all, I have no sympathy for them. Right? Because they're millionaires and billionaires who are making decisions to affect other millionaires and billionaires. And I'm not going to risk
They're not going to be living in a cardboard box the moment that...
They're not. You know, the worst case scenario is they'll have to be on a podcast. You know, they're not... they won't have a beautiful office in Malibu anymore. You know, they're going to be in a beautiful house in the Hamptons recording some podcast with a hilarious comedian that also wants to be. Yeah, I mean, listen, no, Kev, like Kev isn't an idiot. You know, he actually he figured out how to zero in on his demographic, and he just nails it. Right?
I will say it. I like Tusk.
Good for you.
I rewatched Tusk the other day, and I was like, why am I rewatching this? Why?
I wouldn't know. He is shooting Clerks 3 right now, an hour from me.
Go say hi.
He doesn't want me there. I was there. I was literally in Quick Stop, and there were people doing things at the RST, and I'm like, what are they doing? Next day, Clerks 3 is shooting at the Quick Stop. I was just there. But anyway. But
back on topic. I
don't feel bad for them, and I'm not worried about them.
Well, our chat is saying right now, New York is now requiring a vaccination card to go anywhere.
Yeah.
The Sydney, Australia is completely locked down. I know a lot of countries are going fully. People I want my movies in theaters, and they're forgetting the pandemic isn't over.
It ain't over.
We got slightly better, and everyone's like, all right, screw it, I'm going out.
Yeah. No, and I feel the excitement and the desire to be out. And I like going places and doing things. And I want to go to cons, and I want things to go back to normal. But I also understand there's a requirement and a responsibility to be responsible, to do my part. And my part, getting vaccinated, wearing masks, and quarantining / isolating when applicable. in this particular case with movies, I just don't care. Like, I'm just, I believe in movies. I love movies. They're in my blood. I wanted to make movies when I was a kid, and like I have a real like religious like feeling about film and movies, and I think that like movies are an art form that needs to be expressed in their respective kind of cathedrals, right? A movie theater is in itself like a monument to this religion, and I love the theater, and I want to go back to them, kinda, but.
I do too. I think a nice middle ground is this whole 30 days it'll be. Yeah. So if I don't deem the movie worth going to the theater for, right, I can wait 30 days and I still get to see it soon.
Totally. Exactly. Well, if I'll take the option,
Yeah.
It's not, if there were no pandemic, but they were still pushing HBO Max, Disney Plus, which they wouldn't because or they would be, but not nearly as desperately as they had during the pandemic because they needed to recoup some loss. I would absolutely be cherry picking, what I'd see in theaters and what I'd see at home, as opposed to right now where I'm just like, well, it's just smarter and more responsible for me to just not go to the theater at all.
Yeah.
I do think that it's accelerating the inevitability of the theater, though. I think that, there is a theory out there that like, back in the day of old Hollywood, studios owned theaters, and I think we're going to swing back to that one day. Like, I think that Disney could very conceivably purchase AMC, and it'll be like a Disney store that shows the biggest blockbuster movies and also sells t-shirts and toys and merchandise and stuff. And if you want to see like a film, you have to go to like the Bird Theater in Richmond or the Alamo Drafthouse or art house cinemas that are privately owned that preserve the integrity and the viability of the art form of cinema. And I think there's room for that because I feel like AMC's and megaplexes are basically that anyway at this point. They make decisions based on trends and what people are going to go see. And the fact is, like, folk aren't going to see the art house picture because they don't have the ability to get, marketed in front of these bigger movies, and the movie experience has become a roller coaster ride. And if that's where we're going, I feel like we probably would have gotten there maybe in 10 years, but now we're going to get there in probably 3 or 4 years.
It reminds me of what happened with comic books to an extent, because the issue with, and this is my theory, I'm going to preface this right now because everyone likes to say like, oh, it's all these style of comics, No, comics have been going downhill since the 90s in sales. And the problem with that is we've gained more options as consumers for other things. We have more time to do things.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the problem with comic book sales going down is now there's video games and there's movies are easier to access and there's other forms of entertainment you want to spend your money on. And the value of a comic book just isn't there for the general audience anymore.
Right.
Which is where the problems have come in. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what's happening with movies. We're at a point where, yes, we want to go to the theater, just like I would love to still read physical comics every other day. Yeah. But the problem is we're moving into an era where people are like, yeah, but it's easy to watch from my house.
Right.
And as more and more people make that shift, theater sales are going to shift to streaming service sales, just like comic sales shifted to other forms of entertainment.
Right. Right. Well, there's just so much more competition now than there ever was, like you said. And I think also a bit of the invasion or infection of technology into our daily lives, into our very moments, has created this desperate need for tribalism. And so as a result, like, it's not enough to read comics. Now, you only read this particular publisher or this particular character or this particular genre. And, so whereas you used to keep the industry afloat by sampling everything, now you're only keeping this one aspect afloat, which doesn't really keep anything afloat because you're only like holding up, you're holding up a big house with one beam, and that's not enough. That's not sustainable. It's not enough to say video games, movies, streaming services, and just general, tomfoolery of the children is competition for comic books. It's also just the desperate tribalism of society and how everyone has become this kind of like fanatical, I do this is who I am, and I pick and choose and create my worldview based on stuff that I like see and only put in front of myself, and the algorithm then works towards that, and then only shows me the things that I curated for myself like 2 years ago, and now I'm nowhere near where I should be because I've created this like buffet of stuff I've eaten for only the last 2 years.
Right, you get yourself in an echo chamber where everyone agrees with me. See?
Yeah,
I muted everyone that doesn't.
Yeah, the world is like this, and it's like the world that is 1/1000th of what the world is, and it's like, well, not only am I disagreeing with you, but I'm also gonna like punch you because I'm so like insane. So that's me shouting at clouds. But the fact is, the movie theater experience we're not there yet. Like, we're having this conversation about like the death of the theater or the changing of the guard, and I feel like we're not even really ready for this conversation. Hollywood, theaters, studios, they need to have this conversation. They need to be making decisions because they just simply can't afford to wait because they kind of created their own little space race.
They did.
By spending trillions of dollars to start competing with Netflix, a system that shouldn't exist in the first place. And by the way, I not to deride Netflix. Netflix only exists because it was the aggregator for everything. You can't have a Netflix for just Marvel movies. You can't have a Netflix for just DC movies.
I get so annoyed when it's like Quiet Place is a great example. They're like, watch Quiet Place 2 on Paramount Plus.
Pass.
Oh, which one is that?
Yeah, no. Not only will I not do that, but I'm not going to pay for Paramount Plus. You shouldn't exist. Netflix should only be a place where all the studios send their stuff, take a percentage, and then everyone has access to that one thing.
The whole point of cutting the cord was, it's cheaper to go with just Netflix and Hulu. Yeah. And now it's like, but if I get them all, it's not cheaper anymore because I got HBO, Paramount Plus, Peacock. That's another one.
Yep.
HBO Max, Disney
HBO,
Plus,
Netflix, Disney Plus,
Hulu.
Paramount, Discovery Plus.
Remember when it used to be cool and trendy? I'm cutting the cord, Sal.
Yeah.
And now it's like, and I'm paying more for subs. Which of those do you watch? Netflix.
Right. Well, and not only that, but also the company that provides me the internet connection that I use to watch these things is a telecom company, and they don't want me to stop paying for cable, so they're going to charge me out the nose for the internet.
Oh yeah, my internet plans are I have the benefit of being able to write off my internet because we're working from home.
Yeah.
It's $400 here for unlimited gig internet.
Right, which is not unlimited, by the way.
No, this one actually is unlimited. Like,
is it?
It's actually an unlimited business line I had to install in the house.
Okay. Because normally
I'm the only one in this
unlimited,
entire crew that has it. Everyone else has a cap that is hidden.
Because of course not. Because you can't. It's not sustainable for like the average person who just wants to watch the shows they enjoy. None of it's sustainable. That's the thing, is that like, I feel bad. I'm sorry. I know that like I always derail these shows where I'm like, the whole world's coming down because we're in this weird place right now where it is all unsustainable. Like, TV and movies are producing content they can't afford to produce, to make content for streaming services that shouldn't exist, that can't sustain themselves for more than a few years, on money they don't have, that no one can afford. You know what I mean? Like, it's just there's going to be a critical mass point where it's all going to collapse.
Yeah.
And they also expect to make all the money. Like when they found out that Marvel movies could break, bless you, where they found out Marvel movies could break $1 billion. They were like, that's the new normal. And it's like, no, it's not normal. $1 billion is not normal.
Well, that reminds me of the gaming industry when they were like, Hitman and Tomb Raider only did $2 million and $3 million. Those are flops. How are those flops?
Right. If it makes more than double its money back, it is not a flop. It isn't.
Yeah. We're in a world where if it's not doesn't say $1 billion, everyone's considering it a failure.
Right.
If it's not the next Minecraft or Grand Theft Auto Online or Avengers Endgame, they're like, nah, that was a failure. We didn't hit the goal.
Right. Yeah. No. Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, neither of them made $1 billion, and Warner Brothers is like, well, then we need to drop the whole damn thing. And it's like, those movies made money. They made their money back. I don't understand. Like, it's a broken mentality based on a lie. Like, the whole thing is just like, it's crazy to look at and analyze, and it's just like, because we talk about it every day, it's always on my mind where I'm like, none of this is sustainable. Like, it's all on borrowed time. And so what's sad, getting it back to the conversation, is that like theaters are a thing that should exist. You know, it's like being able to buy paint or being able to buy a musical instrument. You should be able to go to the movies.
Well, it's just to go back to my comic book argument. It's why I don't think comic book shops should ever shut down.
No, I agree.
You need a place to get physical collectors and stuff.
Yeah, it's just that comics should be everywhere. Comics should be at 7-Eleven, at comic book stores. Like, comic book stores are where you go when you are done buying your comics at 7-Eleven. Normally you go to 7-Eleven or, you know, Walgreens or wherever, you get a taste. You're like, I'm a kid, I'm at a store.
Here's Spider-Man and he teamed up with this hero. Where do I find that? Well, you go to the comic book store.
Yeah, you go to the comic book store where the rest of them are, or where the last week's stuff was, and the specialty stuff, because comic shops are specialty shops. They're for the collector, or they're for the fan. They're not for the general populace. Like, they have to be in today's world. Like, a comic book store worth its salt will appeal to as many people as it possibly can, and be clean and well lit and everything like that. And it should be, because it's a good business. But like, a comic book store is like a hobby shop, or, you know, like a sports shop, you know, where it's like, I need lacrosse equipment. Well, you go to the lacrosse store,
or a theater.
Or a theater.
Where you go for a unique experience involving popcorn, a soda, and dancing popcorn and sodas on the screen.
Right? Yeah. And the collaborative
You
experience.
don't go to the theater for the movie. You go to the theater for the experience of the movie. The sound, the big screen, the audience cheering when Cap picks up the hammer. Like, that's what you go for.
Right. It is a collaborative experience. It is because you are part of a society that you go to the theater. At least that's one element of it. For me, you know, as a kid, I loved going to the theater when nobody was there, because people are crazy and annoying, and you know,
I still like going when no one's there.
Movies. You know,
I don't go there like, unless it's a big event kind of thing. I don't want you there. I don't want you cheering. Right. But I want you cheering when Cap gets the hammer.
Yeah. No, that was cool. You know, but I have had real, genuine experiences ruined because I went to see it in the theater, and I would have rather seen it at home. But you know, but that's part of the experience of going outside, is that like, you take risks every day. You know, it's not always gonna be guaranteed, and that's like part of the beauty of it. But you know, that's philosophical. So I feel like Hollywood is jumping the gun. I feel like they're just so desperate to make any money back, or to make some money, especially when, like, a year ago or 2 years ago, they were like, okay, so actually, I need to make like all the money. Like, it went from greed to desperation in a year. Yeah. Right? Because it went from,
what if we have another pandemic? I need it all.
Right. Well, like, right now, here's the thing. It's like we spent billions to make trillions, and then we lost trillions.
Yeah.
Oh no. Maybe if we had just been sensible a year ago, we wouldn't be underwater. I don't know. It's just crazy to me.
I think now at this point we're looping on the discussion, so I'm going to bring it to a close here. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Absolutely Marvel and DC. Just more of a thought-provoking discussion. I guess we just wanted to kind of go over it. I'm Benny. That is Sal. And you can catch us here on a nearly daily basis talking about some of your favorite movies, TV shows, and things related to superheroes, movies, and shows. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time right here.